So one of the reasons why I bring up watching dance is that if you see professional dancers dance, oh my goodness, they're such athletes, right? I mean, it's just kind of amazing, the beauty and grace, but also the strength that they embody. And one of the things I love to watch is how, when you train your body in the way that dancers train their body, there's a sense that breath just can move so easily through them, through their whole body. You can see how fluid they have allowed themselves to be within their strength. So I think a lot of times, especially in a practice like yoga, where we hold a posture for an extended period of time, often, not always, but often we will hold a posture, we can get to uh almost a rigidity sometimes. And I remember when I started my yoga practice, this happened to me a lot. I was young, and I would, very much be striving for a pose, and the next thing I knew, I wasn't breathing, or my breath was not as full and fluid as it might be. So if that happens to you, if you're kind of like a type A personality where you want to do things right and you have a sense of control that you want over your body, see if you can reach into the control of your body from a slightly different place. If you can find it from the fluidity of your breath instead of from the guarding and controlling of your muscles, especially your limbs. When we have a lot of strength in the outer body, our shoulders to our hands and our hips to our feet, we have we can move around in the world with a lot of strength in our limbs without really ever knowing what that dynamic strength feels like in the center. So today we're going to work a little bit with posture, to kind of help us feel where our origination of movement can come from the center of our body, and then particularly how the breath can be a support for us. Our lungs and our movement of our lungs can be a support for our posture, instead of just our posture being a support for our lungs. The two are intimately connected. Yeah, Maggie, you have a question?
I do, and it's okay that I'm showing up on video. That's okay.
Okay.
I have some pretty major sciatica going on today, so if you could mention any adjustments that I could make
Sure.
to baby that would be great.
Okay. I think a lot of what we're going to do, it's a good class if you're having struggle. I'll be sure to include something at the end to help. But the poses we're going to do, because we're going to do a lot on the chair, the standing poses we're going to do on chair, it's actually a very helpful way of working when you have sciatic nerve pain, to do the standing poses. So hopefully it'll help. But of course, if anything hurts you, just speak up if you need some help with modifications. All right, so let's sit up straight and tall and close your eyes. Take a moment to feel into your body. And if you are able to, you can sit on a chair instead of the floor, whichever you prefer. So you can get the feeling of whatever postural support feels like, however you are sitting in Sukhasana, Virasana, on a chair, however it is. Okay, so feel into your sit bones. Okay, we're going to do a little bit more of this on the chair in a little bit, but for now, let's just center ourselves, kind of come into your practice, come into your breath. And without doing much to change anything, just be aware how you like to sit. Chances are when you first sit in your yoga practice, you're upright and you're finding that open heart. And then maybe after a few moments, the creep starts to set in, where the habitual pattern of slumping wants to take the place of the openness. So notice that, allow it to happen even. Let your natural tendencies exist here without restricting them at all. So you can pay attention to what your body is used to doing before we kind of move into what is the possibility. So pay attention when you have a spaciousness of your spine to what your breath feels like. And then also notice if you're starting to fall a little bit into a slumped posture, what might naturally be happening to the breath. There's no rules right now. It's just observation. You don't have to do anything. Even if you still are kind of in this stout posture, try to shake things up a little bit. Maybe shake your shoulders, loosen a little bit. Notice if that revived your breath in any way. Feel where your sit bones are. Place your palms together at your heart. Let's just offer our awareness and into an intention for our practice. Let's release our hands and find our way onto a chair now if you haven't already. Okay, so I'm going to move back now so you can see me. And you know, we don't have a chair, go grab a chair to sit on. Okay. And for a moment, sit on the front of the chair or the middle of the chair instead of kind of leaning back on the chair. Sometimes sitting on a harder surface can be a easier way of feeling into our postural alignment than sitting on a softer chair. And if the chair is a bad height for you, you know, if you're very tall and the chair is low, or if you're very short and the chair is high, either put something, a blanket underneath your buttocks, or maybe even blocks under your feet. So try to find your way. Now, instead of just having your feet pointing straight ahead, which we would, you know, normally do when we're trying to just have some good posture in the chair, take your feet a little bit wider than your hips. Now, for women, we're taught from a very young age that this is inappropriate. You know, sitting with our legs open is kind of an inappropriate thing. It's a subliminal message that a lot of women get. We should cross our legs. You know, we often sit with our legs crossed. So try to resist the urge to go into that either neutral or knees together posture, and take your knees just a little bit wider apart. They don't have to be super wide, but just a little wider than your hips. And just notice if this allowed you to find your pelvis a little bit more, the stability of your pelvis. So rock back and forth just a little bit on that chair until you feel, and it might feel good. We can just do a little seated cat-cow here for a moment. So open the chest, lean your head back, and round your spine. And just take a moment to enjoy a little bit of mobility and breath. And then come back to that neutral posture of being centered on your sit bones, the knees a little wider than your hips, the feet firmly planted. And just see, you can have your hands on your legs somewhere if that feels comfortable. And just feel into the upward lift of your spine. So it might feel different in a chair than when you're sitting in Sukhasana or Virasana. It might be harder to feel that you can just ramrod your spine up, but it might be easier to feel that you can feel space. So just notice what's the difference. Open across your chest, feel that your shoulder blades are gently just allowing them to settle downward on your back, that you don't have to overarch your lumbar spine. You can just be in a nice neutral curve to find this. And then feel where your crown is over your pelvis. Now, are you comfortable? Is having this good posture of crown over shoulders, over ribs, over pelvis a happy place for your body? Now, how often do you actually sit like this? Probably not very often, right? So let's go into what you might naturally do. Okay, so are you how would you normally sit? Would you cross your leg? Would you tuck one foot under? Do you lean back and slouch? What is your favorite way? If you were just kind of hanging out here with a friend, having a conversation, how would you want to sit? And when you go into that posture, notice, do you still have the crown over pelvis alignment? Notice, what might be happening in the feeling of awareness of your breath in your rib cage. Then let's return back to that front of the chair, knees a little wider, feet planted, spine long. Now you might notice that certain muscles have to work. Your spinal muscles might need to work. You might have just the teeniest bit of core strength activated. You don't have to grip anything. Now let's pay attention to specifically our breath and how it feels in these two forms. Okay, so how is your breath here? Are you able to expand in all directions on your inhale? Can you feel your diaphragm move down as it contracts on your inhale? Can you feel the recoil on the breath out? Is there a fullness in your breath? Can you feel as if you can find all sorts of nooks and crannies for the breath to travel to? Can you sense that the pelvic floor is able to breathe? And now go back to whatever posture you had before. It could be like leaning back on the chair, could be a foot up, however you were before. And you might feel relaxed. This might be a comfortable position for you to be in. Now pay attention to your breathing. Is it as easy to find all the nooks and crannies? Is it as easy to feel the fullness of your inhale moving into your pelvis and all around your belly? Do you have a sense that you're breathing more in the upper channels of your ribs instead of the lower channels of the ribs? Just pay attention, and this might be true or not true for you. Posture is a very unique thing. And then last time, I promise we'll get up in just a moment, but now this last time, come back again to a place of sitting toward the front edge of the chair a little bit. Feet are wider than our hips, knees are a little wider than our hips. We're on our sit bones. And feel the fullness of your breath. Feel the readiness of the mind. And close your eyes while you're here. And is it really all that much more work to sit with good posture? Okay, so most of the work is just in breaking habits, not in physical strength differences. Okay, so let's move the chair off for a moment. Just come to stand. Okay. Feel your way into a standing posture now. So feet hip width apart. Have a wide stance. You can even go wider if you want, but try hip width apart and see how it feels. And notice if you can get that same feeling of your crown over your shoulders, over your ribs, over your pelvis. Notice where your tendencies are here. Do you tend to push your pelvis out? Are you this kind of a stance where you kind of push the pelvis forward? Do you like to lean into one hip? If you were standing at a party and you didn't have something to lean against and you had to have a conversation with somebody for a while, what would you end up doing with your body? Besides, the natural mirroring that we do with other people. What would you do to get yourself into a comfortable position? Do you lock one hip? Do you slump forward? Do you put your hands on your hips? You know, what are your positions that you kind of move into? And when you do that, so find one of those positions. And when you do that, just notice what's happening to the breath. Where does it go? Where does it not go? And then come back, find your feet. Let's just go ahead and kind of move back and forth, let your body find a little bit of mobility. Bend your knees, straighten your knees, whatever feels good. Just a little bit of mobility. And then come back to the stacking, the efficiency of a good posture. Now, this doesn't mean you have to pull your chest up and stick it out. You can have soft knees. You can have a free belly on your inhale to breathe. You can let your exhales feel a little more support. You can turn on your hamstrings and your glutes just a little bit. You can feel the back body. Just notice where the breath now goes. All right, so from here, let's start to move. Reach your arms up, up, up. Lean back, maybe a yawn has come in. That's great. Cactus your arms, feel the squeezing and awakening of the back body. Lift those arms up again. Big breath. And then exhale, bend your knees and float forward. Shimmy your hips, shimmy your head. Relax what you can. Full breaths here. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine is going to get long and spacious. And then exhale. Melt and fold. Inhale, feel the fluid breath moving as you breathe in, moving as you breathe out. One more time. Put your hands down onto the ground and come into cat-cows. All right, so feeling the breath move your body, arching, rounding the spine, moving with breath. All right, dance around, move through your body. You can move through your shoulders, your hips. Nothing needs to be in any specific pattern of movement. Don't forget your head. And then settle back down towards child's pose and walk the hands forward. Relax your skull, breathing deeply, enjoy the space. Hands over to one side or the other so you open up the rib cage, drop some weight into the pelvis. Breathing well. Making some room for your breath. And then going over to the other side, making a little more room for breath. Okay, coming up onto all fours and find your way into dog pose. Stretch out through your spine, feeling your breathing body. Notice you might want to pedal your feet, and that's great. You can move in any way that serves you. Okay, so long, spacious spine. Feel the breath move into all those nooks and crannies again. Experiment. Maybe you want to have your feet a little wider. Maybe you want to turn your toes in. Does that give you a little more access to the belly and pelvic floor? Maybe you like to have your feet more neutral. Finding breath here. Bend your knees. Maggie, make sure you're bending your knees a lot. Sometimes having a full back body stretch is a very triggering thing for the sciatic nerve. So soften what you can. Make some space, push off the ground and lengthen. And then walk your feet forward again, Uttanasana. Knees bent, wag your tail. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melt and fold. All right, let's step our left foot back, right foot comes forward for a lunge. If you need to, put your hands higher up. You can even grab that chair, which we're going to use in a moment, and put your hands up on a chair. Okay, so as we go back and forth to straighten and bend the front knee, this is actually a nerve glide for the sciatic nerve to bend and straighten your knee, which is why we do it all the time in class, to kind of wake up some of the channels that your sciatic nerve moves through, so that things don't, get snagged. But if you're already having a little bit of a snag, be very mindful to not move into pain in this position. All right, so ground your legs, root down. Okay, open up, rise to crescent lunge, arms upward to the sky, breathing well. Feel the openness of your body. Let's cactus open the arms here, feel the chest expand, and then place your hands on your hips. Bend the back knee a little teeny bit and get to a place where you feel that postural alignment again, crown over tail. Release your hands down to the blocks. Back foot comes forward, fold, relax. Feel the dynamic nature of moving and breathing. Inhale and lengthen, open the breath. Exhale and soften the knees, fold back down. Step your other foot back. So now our left foot is in the front. Finding a lunge, just warming up here, feeling into the expansion of your spine. Start to move dynamically, so we're moving with breath, straightening and bending the front knee to a place of comfort for your body. You can lift your toes if you want. You can keep your foot flat. All right. Finding a lunge again, ground your legs, rise up, feeling that sense of space and fluidity. So try not to harden into the limbs. Of course, we're using strength to support us, but can you let your breath move you down and rise you up? Can you feel the vayus of the body flowing with breath? Can you feel the yielding, giving way into the earth and then rebounding? Try not to be hardened and stuck, and notice the breath moving. All right, release the hands down onto the ground. Step your front foot back, finding the breath. Come forward into a lunge. Not a lunge, a plank. Find yourself steady, breathing well. Before we go back into those lunges, see what it feels like to have this sense of structural support. Let your breath move despite the urge to solidify. Okay, find the ground, roll the shoulders, and then when you're ready, lift up to a cobra, big open chest, exhaling to find your way back down. Again, breathe your way here, melt. Come back up onto all fours, move your spine about, left foot is coming forward, left foot, come back to your lunge and rise up again. This time, hands on your hips, soften the back knee so you feel that it's easy to find the crown over the tail. The chest is expansive and open. Let your breath move you into that stability of yielding. And then reach the arms up, turn sideways on your mat. Feet are wide and come back down. So just enjoy the width of your legs. You can take whatever support you want. You can have your hands on the floor or hands on blocks. Try not to let your hips go way back here behind your heels. See if you can keep somewhat aligned over your pelvis, over your feet. And now from this place, we're going to bend your right knee and just come into a side squat here, lengthening through your spine. You can do this without hands on the ground or hands on the ground, your choice. Okay. Then we're coming over to the other side, stretching open the inner thigh on this side, feeling the spaciousness. And breathing well. And then come back to neutral, turn your feet out, a big wide squat, drop your hips so that they're in line with the knees or higher, not lower. Big breath here. All right, and then stand up, a big standing star. Okay, heel toe your feet back in toward the center. All right, let's grab your chair. And we're going to do some standing poses on your chair. The first of which will be the same pose we just did, the lunging that we just did. So we're going to take our right foot forward and our left thigh back. Oops, wrong way of the chair. So you want your front foot to be on, your right foot should be on the same side as the back of the chair. All right, so your left thigh is off the chair. Now, just like we did a moment ago with bending the back knee a little bit, bend it enough where you feel like you're back to that posture of pelvis right underneath your chest, right underneath your head. And then see what you can do to start straighten the back leg and notice what happens. Feel into the arch that might be coming in your lumbar spine. And what can you do to resist that a little bit? So lift the pubic bone toward the navel, knit the ribs in. Now find the dynamic nature of your breath as you reach your arms up. Press through your feet like you're trying to get off the chair. And then release your hands. Come to the sit on the front of the chair. Just like we did a moment ago, wide feet, knees, a little bit wider than hips, not super wide, but a little bit wider than your hips, and breathe. And now turn to the other side of the chair. Now our left foot is forward, so you're probably turning away from me, and that's okay. You don't need to look at what I'm doing. So just feel into what's happening here. Let your back knee bend so that you have that sense of being able to stabilize your pelvis, your shoulders, and your crown. And when you start to straighten that leg, notice if you hyperextend your back at all. See if you can get into the neutral place and just let your leg go where it's going to go. It may not straighten all the way, and that's okay. More important to find the alignment of your spine. Lift your pubic bone, and when you're ready, your arms can lift up. Find the extension of your spine here, breathing, shoulders down. Press into your feet like you're trying to come off the chair. And then come back round again. Feeling your feet hip width are a little wider apart. Front edge of your chair. Soften your shoulders, let your breath move through you. All right, so Virabhadrasana. What I love about doing this pose on a chair is it really helps you understand that your pelvis, we have this fantasy sometimes that we're going to be in Virabhadrasana 2 and our pelvis is going to be pointing straight forward with our whole body, and our knee somehow is going to be pointing straight toward the short edge of the mat. Now, for some people, that's possible, highly possible. But for many of us, all that ends up happening is we cave this knee in instead of, we have this kind of seesaw, whereas if we stack our knee over our foot, then our hip draws forward. And if we stack our hips left and right facing the long edge of the mat, our knee caves in. So with the chair, you have a support system that allows you to find that heel, knee, foot. And then allow yourself to open to wherever your body can. And stop there, Maggie, do not go too far. Better to soften your way into this posture. So reach your arms out to the sides, soften the shoulders down, and just be where your pelvis is able to be. My pelvis can't turn all the way. I'm not facing this way with my pelvis. I'm a little bit tipped toward my front foot. Okay, so be where you are. Extend your arms. Press into your feet like you're trying to get off the chair. Soften your shoulders. Now we're going to move here while we're here. So feel the grounding of your legs. Open up through your side rib. And then elbow on your knee. Arm overhead. Find that sense of breath. Root into your feet. Open up through your chest. Try to turn your navel and pelvis open, but only to the place where you can stay anchored in that front foot alignment. Now, you might find that you're starting to harden somewhere. That you're like, oh, I must stay here. I must lock myself in this position. Soften with your breath something. Melt your neck and shoulders. Feel the dynamic nature of your feet moving into the ground. Okay, reverse the warrior again. Arm coming up. And then hands back to Virabhadrasana. Rest here, breathe here. All right, and relax. So come out of there. That's a lot of work for your hips. Come back to neutral. Feet hip width a little wider apart. Find your breath. We're going to move over to the second side. So get your knee and your middle toes to line up. Okay. Feel that back leg. Now, if you were like, I can't even get my back leg to go anywhere, take your whole back leg forward so that you are off your tightrope. And it's okay to move that way. So you want to be as close to heel arch alignment as you can be, but you can come off that alignment if you need to. All right, let the pelvis turn any amount that's required. If you're struggling with sciatic nerve pain ever, these poses, if you're really trying to open the pelvis, it can do a lot to kind of tweak your sacroiliac joints, which often can be a place where the sciatic nerve can get a little wonky. There's a lot of reasons why you can have sciatic nerve pain. So we want to lessen that if need be. So turn your pelvis a little bit more toward your front leg if you're struggling with SI joint issues or sciatic nerve issues. Relax the shoulders, breathe deeply, root into the ground. So how do you not get stuck here? How can you have a fluidity even though we're staying still? Can you feel your breath moving? Press your feet into the ground. Reverse your warrior, open things up. Finding that side rib, and then place your elbow on your knee and stretch your arm overhead. Now, this is a wonderful way of practicing if you have a foot or ankle injury, or if you have a knee injury, or you need some support for that sciatic nerve or SI joint. But notice, it's not less work. Okay, you can do a lot of efforting in this pose to strengthen without feeling like you're just leaning on the chair. Okay, so find the rooting of your feet, the extension of your spine. As you feel that support of your body, can you lose your rigidity? Can you find yourself moving into your breath? Move the breath through the body. Notice your neck. Does your head need to move back? And find the reverse warrior again. Open up. And then back to Virabhadrasana 2. Shoulders down, breath deep. And then relax. Come back to center again. Feet a little wider than your hips, front of the chair. Close your eyes. Feel the crown over the tail. Feel the breath moving through your body as expansive as it can be. Now, if we are here for a moment and we want to feel how much our lungs actually support us, bring your arms out to the sides. And if you can adjust your feet to be wider or closer if that makes you feel a little bit more balanced and supportive. Okay. And just notice, forget about your breath for a minute. Just breathe high right into the upper channels of your neck and shoulders. And notice how heavy your arms might be starting to feel. And then find that postural alignment again, where your crown is over your tail, you're making connections. Breathe into the pelvic floor. And breathe into your rib cage. Breathe into your lungs. Let your diaphragm move. Let your lungs support you. Is it changing anything in how you're holding your arms up? Release your arms down. Find a seated cat-cow for a moment. Rising chest, open throat, exhale, rounded spine. And then bend forward. Let your hips soften. Relax your back. Feel your breath travel through the back of your body. And let's go ahead and move the chair out of the way now. Might come back to it, might not. I'm not sure how far we'll get. Go ahead and find your way to the front of your mat. Inhale, arms coming to the sky. Exhale, floating forward. Notice if your hips feel fatigued from the standing poses. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, and melt back to dog pose. How do you want your legs to be? Breathing deeply here. Yield into your hands and feet. Push off. Feel that super spaciousness for your breath. And then come forward into a plank. Hold yourself sturdy and steady. And find the ground. Deep breath in. Open your chest. Exhale and melt to fold. Come on to your right side and grab onto your left foot. Stretch your quadricep here. Just opening up front of your thigh. And then coming back onto your back. Roll over onto your other side. And grab onto that. Just feel into the stretch through the front of your quad, tailbone descends, pubic bone lifts. Try not to let your knee lift in the air, keep it neutral. How's your breath? All right, and then return back onto your back. Feet are down onto the ground. We're going to lift our hips high. We're going to do two bridges, one without support, one with support. So lifting your pelvis up, we're going to climb onto the tops of the shoulders, get into a comfortable position for your head, neck, and shoulders. Try not to compress your neck. If anything, a little teeny more weight into the back of your head so your neck stays neutral. Ground into the four corners of your feet. Now take your feet just a little bit wider than your hips. And I know this is not how we typically do it, but try. Turn your toes slightly, not a lot, slightly out. Breathe into the big open breath. Moving the breath through your body. Finding your pelvis come back down onto the ground. Neutral hips, neutral feet. Find your breath here. And now we're going to grab a block and put it at whatever height you want it to be. It could be at the low height, the middle height, or stack 2 blocks under your pelvis for a higher height. The block is across your pelvis, so it's not in line with your sacrum or spine, but across, perpendicular to your spine. Whatever height you're choosing, let your body rest here. See if you can feel into the open breathing, the open flare of the ribs. Enjoy the flare of the ribs. Feel the diaphragm move in your body. All right, lower yourself off of that block and come down to lie down. Well, windshield wiper your knees first, just let your back relax. So knees over to the left and then to the right, just kind of going back and forth. And then straighten your legs out for a moment and let your legs come just a little bit wider than your hips, kind of like the same distance we were having when we were sitting on the chair. And then choose where you want your arms. They can be next to you or out to the sides or out like a Y or a T or anything that feels comfortable. And now feel into the dynamic nature of your breath. It's so free and mobile if you allow it to be. And a lot of times when we get stuck in poor posture or poor positioning, we don't give our breath room. So notice all the room. See if you can imagine that your breath isn't just this activity in your lungs, but it's an activity in your whole body. So feel your diaphragm dropping down, making your organs expand. While we're here, so choose a comfortable arm and leg position. And I want you to imagine that your whole torso on your in-breath can get as big and broad and wide and expansive as you can make it. Your belly pushes out, everything, you can kind of come to just right to the edge of what you're able to expand. And then let your exhales recoil you. Try to have a huge difference between the top of the inhale and the bottom of the exhale in the shape of your pelvic floor, belly, back, chest, shoulders. Stay quiet in your neck as much as you can. You can breathe out through your mouth if you want, but make sure you're breathing in through your nose. Out can be choice, in or out through mouth or nose. One more time. Now we're going to add limbs into this expansiveness. So this requires a little bit more imagining. We're going to imagine that whatever limb we're working with, we're going to imagine the balloon that has happened in our torso, our pelvis, our shoulders, our chest, our back, our belly. We're going to imagine this balloon extending into the limbs that we're working with. So we get really big, letting the breath inflate us and expand us. And then on the exhale, that kind of shrinking and sinking and softening. So let your arms be where they want to be. We're going to start with the right leg. So deep breath in. All the way to your right foot, and then exhale.
Release it down. Head and shoulders are relaxed. Left leg. Notice if you have more awareness, more connection with one leg or the other. Back to the right leg. All your air out. Don't forget the full exhale. Back to your left. Move into the right arm. Through the shoulder, out your arm, all the way to your hand. You might even feel your hand expand. And then recoil, let it all surrender and soften. Into the left arm. Notice if some part of your body is tensing, that's not required. All the way to your hand. As you exhale, let it soften. Right arm again, from your sternum, rib cage, through your armpit, your shoulder, your upper arm, your elbow, your lower arm, your wrist, your hand, your fingers, and then back into recoil. Left arm again. Where is it coming from? From the diaphragm, rib cage, shoulder blade, shoulder, armpit, arm, forearm, wrist, hand, fingers, and back. Okay, now let's move all limbs, all four limbs, expanding on the breath into your arms and legs. And on the exhale, that yielding back to center. Add in your crown and your tail. So you might want to move. You might want your body to expand like our starfish. And you might want to contract like the condensement we do often in the beginning of our class, which we have not done. So feel that your breath is the guiding movement. It takes you into your limbs, all six of them, crown, tail, arms, legs. And then the movement of your limbs takes you back into your center. Breath expanding from the center of your body outward. Breath drawing you back in toward your center. One more time. And so I want you to feel now, we've done this lots in classes before. And I find this better done on a wood floor than on the mat, but go where you can have room. So we're going to expand, and then as we exhale, curl over onto your right side and let the whole breath move out. Try not to use so much effort, and then slink your way back open, like your breath is just inflating you, so you get bigger and broader, and then your exhale is deflating you. So just like a balloon, you shrink down. Moving from side to side, so you're expanding open on the in-breath, and you're condensing over to the side on your out-breath. Can you imagine any movement that you would create in your body originating from this flow of breath? That posture starts from the center and moves its way outward, instead of just always feeling like you're moving outward to the end. Make sure you do both sides evenly. When you feel ready, we're going to roll over onto your side and come up to stand.
So again, once you find your way standing, imagine now that you are at that party again and you're talking to somebody, and let's see if we can stay in this fluid, grounded, breathing, spacious place where we don't have to lock and lean to support. We can be self-supporting. Start at the bottom, bottom up. So feel your feet. Yield your energy. Soften your knees. As you lift upward slightly with your awareness, try not to harden. Moving into your pelvis. Do you need your legs a little wider apart? And just feel into what feels good. Such a broad, open, free pelvis. Your pelvic floor can breathe. Soft knees, yielding feet. Traveling upward to your belly and your diaphragm. Are you able to move your diaphragm freely? Is your belly responding to the work of your diaphragm? As you contract your diaphragm and it moves down and broad, can you feel your organs displace and move outward in all directions? And as you exhale, that recoil. Imagine on your in-breath that you're not just lifting your chest up, but you're expanding. You might even feel like your arms need to go out a little bit. Can you feel the dynamic nature? Can you feel the dynamic nature of your breath moving through your body, even here? All the way to your crown, stacked over your shoulders, your ribs, your pelvis, your knees, your feet. Imagine you're still on the floor, slithering around inside your breath, but do it standing. Close your eyes. Soften your knees. Unlock any joint that wants to lock. Breathing in through your nose, out is a choice. You feel that your limbs are not rigid and hard and stuck and locked, but that the support comes from much, much more dynamic strength that happens from your center. Inhale, arms coming up. Exhale, bend your knees. Relax your back. Okay, coming down into child's pose. Breathe into the back of your body. Take your knees as close or as far as you want. And as we find our way towards Shavasana, we're going to come on our back, and we had a bit of an unusual practice today. So if there's any posture that you need, a twist or a happy baby pose or a hip stretch, you can do a thigh over thigh or a reverse pigeon. So just find whatever it is you need to kind of complete your practice to get into a place where you're comfortable. And then there's no rush, when you are ready to prepare for Shavasana, make sure you are warm. There's nothing that will make you feel guarded and rigid in Shavasana quite like being cold. So make sure that you are warm and comfortable. Make sure you have the support, the props that you need. And now once you find your way in comfort onto your back, or maybe you're not on your back, maybe you're doing Shavasana on your belly or on your side. Anything is possible. Okay. So but once you find yourself in comfort, let's move into that beautiful breath, that dynamic movement in your body. So we don't have to expand anything. We don't have to feel ourselves reaching muscularly anywhere.
But put your body, your arms and legs in a place where you are supporting breath. And then without any, actual movements, can you just imagine that all you are is your breath, that you are the ebb and flow, the rise and fall. Melt your head, your neck, your skull, your face, your throat, base of your skull, your tongue, your shoulders. Start to move with your breath. Feel big movements or small movements. Eventually finding your way to your side.
Let's find our way to a comfortable seat as you're ready. When you do, if you're sitting on the ground, have support so that you can again feel that alignment of your crown over your shoulders, over your ribs, over your pelvis. Get comfortable with letting your head not jut forward. Can you just settle yourself back and breathe? Let's offer the gifts of our practice, our breath, our energy, send it forth to another. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.